Hi everybody, so I'm going to talk to you about remote learning and how we have approached this in A-level classics. And of course, Remote Learning 101, bookcase, apparently that's a thing now to have a bookcase behind you. But on a serious note, I'm going to talk you through a number of approaches that we've been using that have been working for us. And then if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, there's going to be an opportunity to do so in the Zoom session on Friday afternoon, and you'll receive details about that shortly. Just out of interest, you might be wondering what I'm using to record this. You can see me in the top corner, but you've also got a PowerPoint in front of you. I'm using an app called Loom, which can sit on your desktop, but is also an app on your mobile phone. And I'll come to that a little bit later in, but that is what I've chosen to use in classics as opposed to Moodle or eStream. So to start with, I want to think about how we are planning and sequencing in classics. And we decided that we wanted to use email to let students know the work that we would like them to complete. We thought that was going to be the most straightforward, to lay out in bullet point form the tasks for the week. And very early on, we made a conscious decision that we wanted to set weekly rather than daily tasks. Now, the reason we did this was twofold, actually. One, we weren't entirely sure what access to technology our students were going to have. So would they have a laptop? Would it be available only at certain parts of the day if other members of the household were using it? But also, we were aware that motivation levels were likely to be up and down given the circumstances of lockdown. And so we decided that if we set weekly tasks, students had a little bit more flexibility as to when they worked. So if they were having a particularly difficult afternoon or a particularly difficult day, they might leave their work and do something for their well-being instead, and then they have the opportunity to come back to their classics the next day. And this flexible approach was cited by our students a number of times in the student survey. So it's something they've really appreciated, and I think has had a positive impact on our relationship with them as well. To work alongside that, we've used hard and soft deadlines. So our emails go out on a Monday morning. Friday afternoon is our soft deadline because we want to try and encourage people where possible to still work in the week and then differentiate the weekend. It just gives everybody a bit of normality. But we have a hard deadline of Sunday so that if people need that extra time, there is that flexibility. And we've seen an impact in how many people are able to submit work by the end of the week as a result. And we've also had some emails thanking us and students telling us that it's helped with their anxiety about getting work done in lockdown. The other thing that we've thought about when it comes to planning and sequencing is about how we revisit tasks, because we know that to embed learning deeply into the long-term memory, it's not enough for students just to look at tasks once. And we didn't want working from home to become about a series of unlinked tasks. We wanted it to still build on what we've done previously, but also to be able to see that coherence to the rest of the course. So what we decided to do was to have tasks each week that built upon the previous week's learning. So they might look at something from a new angle, they might self-assess, having now been given answers or an exemplar or another way to do things. And as well as that being entirely useful for us all progressing together forward, I think it's given the work some value as well and made sure that they do keep up with work, because if you miss something one week, you're going to need it the next week. So it just makes everything connect better. It's also important, though, to still try and tap into things that we did previously whilst we were together. So we tend to also give a synoptic task. So it might be that they're now looking over an overarching theme and they've got to start making connections between the different topics that we've studied. It could be a revision-based task. But we've thought about making sure that we've got those opportunities, as I say, to still embed learning deeply, even if we are having to do it in a slightly different way. Now, in terms of how we deliver content, We knew we didn't just want to tell students to go in, do a task in their booklet, or to read information off a screen. We wanted some kind of delivery that brought it to life and gave them extra teacher explanation. Obviously, you've got the option of PowerPoint voiceovers and an eStream. For me, I personally liked an app called Loom because it does sit on my mobile phone, and it's just been the most straightforward method to use, but also because I can get an instant URL from the video that I can then share out with students. But it also allows me to directly download the video onto my mobile phone for instant upload to social media. And it's social media that I've chosen to use to put my content onto instead of Moodle for a couple of reasons. One, students were having problems with Moodle. It keeps kind of letting them in sometimes and not on other occasions. But social media is also the most accessible to our students. They're on their phones all the time. And this just allows me to stay at the forefront of their minds, because I keep popping up with notifications, with new content for them to have a look at. It's just really accessible. Now, in classics, we've always had a Twitter, but because that's less about content and more about keeping up to date with news, research, the academic community, we've since January moved across to Instagram because I've been working on a series of revision videos. And that's been really helpful in lockdown to be able to continue to use that as a platform. But because some students choose for well-being reasons not to be on social media, we also decided to launch a classics YouTube channel. And if you want to see either the Instagram or YouTube, they're both named Runshaw Classics, or one word. But YouTube means they can just go onto the channel without seeing anything else that they don't want to see or subscribing to anything and access that video. And it's actually had a really interesting marketing effect as well for raising the profile of our course outside of our students, because members of the public are now following and watching too and learning something about the ancient Greeks and Romans. So that's just a little side note for something else that we found. Now, sometimes my videos are just me talking over an artifact or images. Other times, like I'm doing for you today, I might embed myself talking over the PowerPoint, and students quite like that personal approach, that they get the visual of you talking and then they can also see what you're talking about at the same time. So it just kind of helps them engage even more. Right, next, challenge. Still important to try and challenge our students, even though they are working in a different way at the moment. And two ways in which we've done this in classics. Number one, adding extension tasks each week. So that if they do finish everything and they want something else to do, we give them something a little bit more independent that is going to stretch them. So, for example, last week we had students taking a virtual tour of the British Museum and trying to find pieces of art that we don't study together but would be a useful example for them to use in an essay. Because with classics you do get extra credit if you find examples beyond the syllabus. We've also tried to think about challenging students to think about the way in which they present their information, and they could go as far as they liked with this particular project, and many did. So all students were working on women in the ancient world as a topic, but we said as long as you provide a detailed rationale, you can present that information as a piece of artwork, as a poem, as a piece of creative writing. And many of them said this really helped with their motivation and gave them something actually that was really enjoyable to do during the week. And we shared an example a day on Instagram just to give students another boost that theirs might turn up at any point, and just to show a couple of examples. There's a beautiful piece of artwork. She had a lovely rationale behind each woman there and why she presented her the way she had. A student had done a piece of embroidery based on a scholar's idea. So they really engaged with this. And they found it challenging in a way, as I say, that increased their motivation for that week. In terms of improving relationships, this is something that we use Instagram for as well. And I know not everybody is comfortable about putting themselves out there on social media. And of course, we've all got to consider the idea of professional boundaries and what we can and can't share. But what I try to do is to keep it still related to classics, but not always about work. So they do get to see a bit of personality, and it helps them engage in your account or your channel in a way that isn't just associated, as I say, with you sending them more work. And I've managed to keep going with my students by the story each day. So, for example, just a couple of things that we've done with it. This one here, we had a meme competition. I gave them examples of Greek and Roman art that were particularly unusual, and they had to come up with captions and send them to me throughout the day, and I shared the best ones that evening. This was a game where there was a card that went above your head and it stopped and told you which Greek or Roman god you were. I think I was eventually Dionysus, god of wine, which seems appropriate at the moment. I kept them up to date with how I'm getting on with a jigsaw of ancient Greece, which is not too good. So they're getting little snippets of your life as well. We've had coffee mornings on Zoom where they've come not with questions but just to touch base and say hi and have a general chit chat. This morning we mostly talked about what we're buying off Amazon and a little bit about the Roman emperors as well. And sometimes they just really like a personal you speaking to camera, and that day I was just talking around motivation, how I felt, giving them some hints and tips, things that were helping me. And then in return, they sent me some ideas as well via the Instagram story. And it was just a really lovely day where we felt like we were all helping each other a little bit through this. So if you are going to have an Instagram account, I would say try and make it unique. It's not just about where Twitter, you retweet other people's work. It's about your content and your personality and why people should follow you. And I like that balance of using it for work and putting my videos on there, but also just trying to have a little bit of classics related fun as well. Finally, just want to talk to you about how we assess and offer feedback in classics. So my first tip is get your students to download the free app Adobe Scan. They can scan all their work, save it as one PDF file and upload it to wherever you would like your work. And for me, it's Moodle at the moment. So whilst we've, as I say, we don't want to be using Moodle, putting our videos on there because they can't always get to them, just once a week, we ask them to submit at the end of the week using the assignment option at the top, the work that they have done. And from the teacher end, this is what it looks like. PDFs are better than Word documents because you get to see them instantly without having to download the file. The benefit of that is down here you've got a feedback comments box, so you can be looking at the piece of work at the same time as typing in the feedback. And you can even link to other files you want them to look at or videos that you think will help that student improve even further. And when you're ready, you can notify the student that that feedback is available for them. You can also, if you want to, assign it a grade. So that's individual feedback on pieces of work. We don't give feedback on every single piece. We give feedback on one piece a week that tends to be exam style content. Other pieces of work, we provide answers or exemplars or videos and get them to self-assess and then send that back to us, showing us that they've done that the following week. Finally, when I'm going through looking at the individual feedback, I still make a note of the common mistakes that I'm seeing a cohort making and address that in a whole class piece of feedback. So in this case here, I've done what I'm doing with you today in terms of Loom, and I've recorded myself talking through the passage and explaining how students needed to tackle it to get a level 4 or level 5 mark. I also use Instagram for daily feedback. So if they've got something that they really need to know the answer with or they really need help with, then I put a daily Q&A on there. They can type in their question and I can either respond to them directly, or I can actually put my response out to the wider Instagram audience that follow me. It's anonymous who asked me that question. And that means that everybody gets to see something that might have also been an issue for them, reducing the amount of emails that I have to answer to. So I hope you found it useful. As I say, feel free to ask me any questions based on what you've seen today, and just all the best and good luck with your own remote learning.